Hello everybody, I'm Jamie Bowling and I want to share with you for a moment the exciting world of fractures in long bones. And long bones are found in your arms and legs. Let me flip this around and share my screen with you. Okay, here you're going to see some fractures. On the left we have transverse. Transverse runs horizontally and basically separates the upper and lower portions of the long bone. Next we have the linear. That runs up and down the bone, and it doesn't break the bone in half. It's just a small little, basically a crack in the long bone. Next we have the oblique. That one is the non-displaced, meaning it is broken, but is still technically in the same position that it was before it had the fracture. Next one over, you can see the oblique displaced. So it is the same fracture as the oblique. However, the displaced means that it is no longer in the anatomical position that it was prior to the fracture occurring. Then the next we have spiral, and it is very similar to the oblique, except for the oblique breaks in half. The spiral runs in the same pattern, however, the bone is not completely broken. Next we have the green stick, and that occurs in children because children's bones are still a little softer and more pliable than adult, so their bones will bend a little bit, and when that bends, that causes the green stick fracture. Next we have the comminuted. The comminuted is the most difficult to repair because you can see that there are many fragments that have occurred in this type of fracture. These generally will require a surgical intervention, and that would be rods, pins, screws, plates. We will talk about that when we get further on into the chapter. Next, you see an open fracture. That is when the bone has broken and it has penetrated the skin. That one is considered a medical emergency because anytime you have bone exposed to the outside environment, you run the risk of getting a bone infection, and that can be life-threatening. Next, you see down here a fracture of the distal radius. That is called a Colles fracture, and those occur when someone tries to catch themselves after a fall or during a fall, and it will fracture that portion of the wrist. There are many other fractures that you can get in catching yourself from a fall, but that's the only one we're going to talk about at this moment. Now, repair of all of these bones, most of them can be done in the ER, and it's called a closed reduction. Closed reduction means that there was no need for an incision, that they were able to just basically tug on the bone and put it back in the position that it should be in to promote healing. Now, if you cannot do a closed reduction, that's when you're going to require a surgical intervention. Okay? Now, they try their best not to have to do surgery on a bone if they don't have to. And once again, like I said, we will talk about the different types of procedures related to repairing bone fractures later on in the chapter. I would like to note that most of the time when a fracture does occur, they will put a splint around that extremity while the tissue is healing, because you're going to have a lot of swelling, edema, and you don't want to contract that tissue. You want to allow for it to expand. Otherwise, you're going to end up with vascular anomalies, and it can cause compartment syndrome and essentially could kill off the extremity below where the casting is. So we want to put a splint on it till the swelling has gone down. Then is when we'll put that hard cast on it that everyone's more familiar with.